instrument, viola, when I was 17 years old. But I started playing music when I was just probably about 4 years old. I started on the violin, and then maybe 1 or 2 years later, I started on piano. And I played both of those instruments for a long time. I think I quit piano maybe around age 12, but I kept up with violin all the way through high school, and then made the switch to viola and was playing both for a while. And I still play violin. And I really have to credit my mom for all of that, because she was really passionate that all of her kids be involved with classical music. I think she just really loved it. And we used to listen to a lot of records, and my parents are pretty musical, and they have a lot of musical people in their own families. My grandfather played trumpet, my great uncle played clarinet in the army band. And then on my dad's side, my great grandfather was a really, really gifted violinist and a collector of instruments with a really interesting background in music. And he used to gather people together and play chamber music weekly. So he was never a professional. I think he played sort of professionally. He had another career completely, but was more of just a passionate amateur musician. But I think there's a lot of family connection there. If I really think hard about it, I think that one of the pieces that got me really into music, and especially I think really interested in viola, and helped me kind of make the switch for real from violin to viola, which I'm really glad that I did because I love viola so much, is the Max Bruch 8 pieces or 8 movements for a clarinet, viola, and piano trio. It's a really lovely piece with a lot of variety and darkness and beauty. And I played it in, I don't think this camp exists anymore, but in a very short chamber music camp in Philadelphia when I was a teenager at the Kimmel Center. I think it was just called like Kimmel Camp or something. And my coach was Sid Curtis. And it was a really special experience, and I'm really grateful for that, because I think that it's sort of it's like my first real memory of playing and working on chamber music and feeling like, oh, I love this, and this feels really good. There are so many things that attract me and interest me in contemporary music. I think first of all, I just find it to be really freeing. Even though some pieces that we work on that are new pieces can be really detail oriented and really specific with all kinds of complex markings and complex like extended techniques and things like that. I think at the same time, because they're new pieces being brought to life, maybe even for the first time in some instances, there's a lot of freedom in that, because you kind of get to put your mark on it as an interpreter. And I love the kind of personal connection you can make to a piece that's new. Obviously, I also love playing like the gems of the classical repertoire so much, and I'll never stop loving those. But I think in terms of just kind of having, like finding like a uniqueness that you can put into your work, I think that working in the contemporary music scene is really liberating in that sense. And beyond that, I think the biggest thing is just working with people and working with composers and learning about the process, but also being part of the process and making these really great new relationships with people all over the world. I feel like I've been pretty lucky with that, but starting like a long time ago, I made these friendships and with young composers who were just kind of emerging, and I was also just kind of emerging. And a lot of those friendships, or several of those friendships, have really lasted through the years, and I love that so much. And even though I can't always be in touch with everyone as much as I'd like to, I've found ways to work with some of those composers who I know who live in different places, and kind of keep the connection with them, and just keep getting really inspired by them. So I think that's one of the most important aspects of it for me as a person. How do I prepare for a concert? Is a very good question, and it definitely depends on the concert. If it is a performance for the Philadelphia Ballet, for instance, it's the group where I am principal viola. I think because ballets are long, a lot of the work that has to be done before a series is listening. And this can take place in a few different ways. I mean, often if I have time, what I'll do first off the bat is just get a recording out, ideally a video recording, but sometimes a combination of video and audio, because again, it's kind of a long sit-down session otherwise, because these ballets can be several hours long, and get my score out, my part out, and just follow along as best as I can. And then continuing to listen. I think one of the things that's been really valuable for me now that I have like a lot less time to prepare for things, and sometimes things just come up quickly out of nowhere, is just having these pieces on in the background. I mean, even something like the Nutcracker, which I've played now many times, even something like that, I just have it on sometimes, because it's just the more that these pieces are in your ear, especially with the ones that are less familiar. Like we've done some Prokofiev ballets that I didn't know. We're doing one in May that I'm not familiar with, and I just think that having them on is really important, because the music starts to kind of integrate into your ear and you get a feel for the style, which is really important. But generally speaking, for a concert, whether it's chamber music or a difficult orchestral program, just detailed, slow practice. Again, you don't have a lot of time. Everyone is so busy, and I think the less practice time I have, I want to say the better I get at practicing. I don't really know if that's true, but I think I definitely have come to value and not take for granted the value of slow practice. Sometimes that's just all there's time for, and that sticks the best anyway as it happens. So it's a good lesson. Currently, one of the composers that I am really interested in and both listen to, but also I'm in touch with on like a semi-regular basis, is Lev Lyova Zorbin. He is a composer who lives in New York City, and I've played a lot of his music now, and I'm really proud to have worked with him, and I've even played a concert with him actually several years ago. I don't know, maybe 4 years ago or so. I played with him at the Lincoln Center Atrium 360 series, a really cool series that they, I think, still do there. And his music was featured on the series, so it was a whole program of works by Lyova, and I played on them, and he played as well. He's also a violist, so it was really fun. And I became very familiar with his music, partly through that, but even just on my own volition before that. And we've always been in touch via email, and right now even he's writing a new piece that I will be premiering with cellist Alexander Hirsch in just a month or so. I think the other composer I have to say that I'm really interested in and am currently listening to, well, it's two, Schumann and Mendelssohn. So not really contemporary, but they were very much so for their time. And the reason for this is, well, they're two of my favorite composers, but also my oldest brother, for my birthday this year, sent me a bio of Robert Schumann, and I think there's probably multiple bios of him, but this one was such a fun read. I mean, fun, his life had certainly had some tragedy, but it really was a great read. And also I felt like I thought I knew about Schumann, and I thought I kind of like understood his style, and I've always loved his music so much. I think he's probably one of my like top 5 favorite composers ever. But after I read this book, I just gained a whole new appreciation for him and for Clara Schumann and just his whole world. And I didn't realize that how important his friendship was with Felix Mendelssohn, and how complicated it was, but also how important it was. And so I've been listening a lot to Mendelssohn's Song Without Words, and which I just love, and I just felt like listening to it, and I put it on a lot. It's really nice to have it on in the house. And just kind of rediscovering some other works of Schumann, mostly just piano works that I've listened to, but I wanted to kind of reacquaint myself with. In addition to music, what else do I do? Well, I wish I could list some really interesting hobbies, but the truth is I really just spend time with my family, go on a lot of walks, and just take care of the kids and things like that. But I guess this is all very music related, but one of my real passions is curating concerts. And technically I know that this is music, but I feel like it's also kind of adjacent, because it's not just the playing part, it's the coming up with creative programs. I just love doing this, and I've kind of got my feet wet doing it back when I was in New World Symphony, and now I do it. I have a concert series that I've put together here in Philly, and we've had 2 performances so far, but we had several before that, before during the pandemic that were outdoors. But anyway, the series is really a chance for me to kind of explore eclectic programming and put together these weird ideas that I have, but they form over time. So I kind of consider it like a hobby, because I think there are just things that are always marinating, and I'm listening to music and I'm thinking about it and I'm reading lots of books, and I think that it all kind of comes together for me through that. I love to be inspired by like what I'm reading or what I'm seeing, or what's kind of going on in the world, things that are really important, but also those are the things that kind of influence the way I think that my creative process works. And so I think that for me, that kind of writing down of ideas and just kind of keeping track of, wow, I heard this folk song at this concert, or I saw this jazz combo and I just like loved something that happened on the performance. Like, what sticks about that for me? And crazy things can happen through just sort of writing down your ideas. So that's also kind of a hobby of mine.